If you were to travel way deep down into the deepest parts of the ocean where no sunlight could reach, you would expect to find absolutely nothing but darkness. But what you would actually see is little flashings and glowings of light. This isn't little machines or little robots. These are animals that are making their own light. These animals make this light to survive. And this glow is basically their entire survival strategy. Bioluminescence might sound like something from a movie, but it's real and it shows up in more places than you would think. Learning about bioluminescence helps us understand how light survives in the most extreme places, especially where there's no sunlight at all. I first got interested in the topic of bioluminescence after watching videos about glowing sea creatures, and I wondered, how do they even make light? How do they glow? So I looked up and I found some resources like the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration and a marine biologist named Dr. Edith Whiter. I also used the Smithsonian National History of the Nature. This helped me understand how animals glow and why it matters. Today, I'm going to explain how bioluminescence works and how they use it to communicate, how they use it to discourage predators, and how they use it to attract mates. Let's start with how common it really is. According to the National Oceanic Administration and Atmospheric Administration, about 76% of deep sea organisms can produce their own bioluminescence. So basically, all of the animals that live in the deep sea can produce their own glow. This tells us that it's not just a cool trick, but it's something they actually need to survive. One of the main ways that animals use bioluminescence is for communication. Marine biologist Dr. Edith Whiter says bioluminescence is the most common form of communication on the world. That's so wild to think that the deep sea creatures don't have a solid way of communicating besides bioluminescence and glowing. They might flash a certain way to let other animals know who they are, or to let them know a predator is approaching, or so they can stay together while they're traveling. Since it's so dark down there, glowing becomes their own version of talking. Bioluminescence also helps animals stay alive by avoiding predators. Some creatures use sudden bright flashes to scare or confuse something that's trying to eat them. Others release a glow cloud of chemicals that works like a distraction so they can get away, kind of like squids. One of the coolest strategies, I think, is called counter-illumination. The organism will use faint light from up above to blend in, so if the predator looks up, it won't be able to see them. It's like camouflage, but it's using light instead of colors. Bioluminescence, it's not just for defense. It can also be used for attracting mates. A great example of this is fireflies. Most of us have seen a firefly, and according to the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History, fireflies can produce a light from a chemical reaction in their abdomen. Each species has its own special flash pattern that signals to potential mates. So basically, their glowing is like a built-in messaging system that only their species can understand. Now that we've looked at how it works and why it's so important, and we went over first that it's super common in deep sea animals because they needed to survive where there's zero sunlight. Then we talked about how it's a way for organisms to communicate and avoid predators, and finally we saw how it helps animals to attract mates, both underwater and on land. Bioluminescence might look super pretty and cool and magical, but it's a major survival tool. It helps them thrive in some of the darkest and most extreme places on the world. Thank you.